What's up, everybody? That's something people in America say more typically than we do here in Britain. I'm Daniel, this is Chris, and you're watching The Superhero Show. Now, this week on the site, we ran this story about, well, maybe it's a bit of a rumour, but there's this notion going around that Sony are willing to give Spider-Man back to Marvel in some kind of arrangement. So maybe they loan him back for certain appearances in upcoming Marvel movies, or maybe on a more wholesale basis. So whether that's right or whether that's false, we want to discuss the notion, should Marvel try aggressively to get Spider-Man back into their house? What do you think, Chris?
Yes. Should
you let a spider back into your house?
Yes, and we can end the podcast there. That is my answer.
And not even a podcast?
Yeah, no, I think it's a great idea. We weren't particularly impressed with Amazing Spider-Man 2. I don't know if anyone really was.
I reviewed it for the site. I thought it was a pretty average movie.
Yeah.
I like lots of stuff in it, and I should say, for the record, like Spider-Man's my favourite comic book character.
And things don't seem to be going well at Sony. There's been films announced that kind of sound like they've been cancelled, and Sinister 6 is coming next, and Spider-Man 3 has been put back, and all is not right there. Obviously, we know that the Marvel Cinematic Universe is rolling along. It all seems to be working. And who wouldn't want to see Spider-Man take his rightful place alongside the rest of the Avengers in one of those movies? Yeah. I think it would be an absolute blast.
Do you think it's a bit like, looking back, do you think it's a lot of hubris on Sony's part to like announce all these Spider-Man movies before Spider-Man 2 really cemented itself as a big hit?
But we've talked about that before.
Many movies.
When did these announcements get made? Is it just before shareholder meetings? It's like, it's to keep the stock up. I don't know. There's a lot of talk in Hollywood, isn't there? But I didn't feel like any of it was particularly concrete at the time. I think we even probably said it on this show, and it looks like it wasn't. It was talk, really. Yeah. What do you think, Dan?
A few things. Like I said, Spider-Man's my favourite character. I love Spider-Man. I loved Raimi's version when I was growing up, when I was in my late teens. I really loved those films. And while I like Andrew Garfield, I thought the second movie was a bit of a letdown. And I ultimately just think that Marvel are carrying on without Spider-Man. Like, for such a long time, Spider-Man is their biggest character. For so long, it was like, it's the character that Stan Lee will talk about most fondly. It's like, Spider-Man is the house that Marvel built to some extent. But they're having tremendous success with these kind of lesser-known characters. And the universe that they've created has been formulated without Spider-Man being a part of the picture. So I worry about introducing him at this late stage, it just being kind of crowbarred in, it being a little bit jarring, and then it raises more questions. Do you carry on with Andrew Garfield?
No, I think that is a good question.
Do you reboot it? Will people accept another reboot so soon? I don't think they would.
Get Maguire back.
But it suddenly becomes very, very complex, and a lot of the stuff that they were kind of setting up, like one of my biggest problems with Amazing Spider-Man 2 was I felt like it was an extended trailer for all the other Spider-Man films that were in the theoretical pipeline. So the Sinister 6 movie, the spin-off movie, Spider-Man 3, and it just didn't hold together, I think, as a movie in its own right. So if you start putting Spider-Man into these characters, I feel like it's to the detriment of the Spider-Man character. He should be front of stage. He shouldn't be like, hey, this is a cool cameo, we've got Spider-Man. Like, it's bloody Spider-Man. He's worthy of being in the spotlight, rather than, hey, this is a nice thing to chuck in Avengers 3.
Yeah, but I think Hulk's worthy of his own movie, and yet the way he's been used in Avengers is a really smart, interesting way.
I think there's way more to Spider-Man as a character than Hulk, though. I think they've kind of shown that the Hulk dynamic suffers at least in the adaptations that they've done so far. We know that Spider-Man can work on the big screen. There's been some really good Spider-Man movies. I don't know. I just don't want to see him like underused.
But I've said it a few times on this show. I'd like it to be like the old studio system, or even I was thinking about it's a bit like the football loan system. Okay. We use in the English Football League, but I would like to see characters being loaned and passed around, and you can have Spider-Man in your Avengers, and you can have Hulk in your Sinister 6 movie. Yeah. I think it would be really fun to start sharing these around in the way that they do in the
license
comics.
Them almost on a film by film basis.
That's what they used to do with film stars back in the 40s.
Yeah. So on the other hand, other side of this kind of debate and situation is the Fox kind of universe they're building, and we don't know whether the Fantastic Four and the X-Men universe are going to join up, but there's definitely
They totally will.
They probably will, but they're definitely building an X-Men universe. They said that the Deadpool movie would exist in the quote-unquote X-Men universe, and they don't want to play ball because they've experienced success. Now, the reason why Sony might be amenable to this kind of arrangement is that Spider-Man hasn't gone great guns. And a few months ago, when Amazing Spider-Man 2 came out, I interviewed Avi Arad for the site. We got him into the studio, and we spoke to him for about 20 minutes. And I pitched him the theoretical dream situation. Could Spider-Man ever be in the Avengers? And he said to us, I don't know if we can run this clip, but he said something along the lines that they would only do it if they ran out of ideas. And it doesn't feel like they've run out of ideas. They had lots of ideas, but it feels like they've just hit a wall with Spider-Man.
Yeah, but producers can say that kind of thing. It all comes down to the money, doesn't it? I think that's where it begins and ends with all these things.
Yeah, because if Spider-Man 2 had been a huge box office success, we'd be rolling along with Spider-Man 3.
Yeah, that would be coming out much sooner than 2018, which is what it is at the moment.
If it happens, yeah.
And we talked about it with other crossovers, like, we had that chat with Hugh Jackman where he said he wanted to see Hulk fight Wolverine.
Yeah.
Sooner or later, I think that will happen. I think these deals will get done when it's financially makes sense. But at the moment, Marvel don't really need to go after any other properties.
They don't need to go cap in hand to
own.
anyone, do they? It's more Sony would have to go cap in hand to Marvel.
But also, I think Marvel are very good with their fans, and they know that it's something the fans want to see. So,
do you think fans would get as much enjoyment from a nice Easter egg in Avengers 3? Or do you think they crave a more integrated kind of treatment? I think you'd
rather it be integrated than an Easter egg, because then it just
bit of a tease.
Yeah, I think if Spider-Man's an Avenger, let's see him as part of the crew.
Well, that's actually another story that came out this week, was that Avengers 3 would have a new roster of Avengers, and obviously Spider-Man in the history of the comics has been an Avenger at certain points. So has Wolverine.
Yeah,
and lots of different characters. So.
Yeah,
what about that idea?
Yeah,
Avengers 3 Spider-Man's one of the characters.
Spider-Man, Doctor Strange, Ant-Man, maybe Star-Lord.
Yeah.
I'd be down with that.
Wow. Well, that's kind of what we're thinking about Spider-Man and how he might appear in the Marvel Universe. As always, we'd love to hear what you think about all stuff regarding superheroes. So you can contact us at what address, Chris?
IGN_UK feedback at IGN.com.
That is correct.
Yeah,
So for everything on Spiders and Spider-Man, stay right here on IGN.